I talked a lot of today.
Most of them, right?
Sometimes I make things happen.
Every now and then, but you do cause a lot of headaches.
Good evening, and thank you all for being here tonight, and welcome to this meeting of the Wendell Board of Commissioners. We've got a pretty quick meeting tonight. We're happy that y'all are all here. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight by Mason Hetzel. If you'll come stand right up here. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. Excuse me, pollen's about to get me. Mason is a 7th grade student at Wendell Middle School. He is a positive role model for his peers. Mason is dependable, reliable, and an overall joy to be around. He is always willing to help his teachers and peers. Mason's teachers enjoy his fun, quirky personality. Mason sets goals for himself and works hard to meet or exceed those goals. That's important. I'm a goal setter too. That's important. Mason is a member of the Wendell Middle School Concert Band and Jazz Band. He plays the horn in the concert band and the trumpet in the jazz band. Mason is also a member of the National Junior Honor Society. Academically, Mason has earned all A's in class in both 6th and 7th grade. That's outstanding. Outside of school, Mason is a competitive swimmer. Each day he leaves school to go to practice. He has set a goal of swimming the 50 fly in under 30 seconds, and with his strong work ethic, practice, and determination, he met his goal last month. Very good. Mason's teachers and administrators are so very proud of him. He's a wonderful young man who always strives to do his best. Keep up the phenomenal work, Mason. This was sent to me by your principal. So congratulations for that. We're very proud of you. And we're going to rise now, and you're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Have a seat. Our invocation tonight, I bet, is Mr. Errol Biggerman. Thank you very much for always being here for me.
Thank you. Could I make a couple of quick announcements?
Certainly. You know you
This
can.
is really, really cool. We did our spring community food drive, and as most people know, on the 7th, it just poured down rain.
Yep.
We didn't get all the bags out, which we had almost 2,400 we was going to put out. We didn't do but maybe 2,100 or so. We still were at 464 bags, which is huge for us to do. So anyhow, I'm just so thankful. What a great... Oh, I thought that was me.
You thought it was you, didn't you?
Yeah, anyhow, I'm so thankful. This is a great community. It's growing and growing and growing as far as people. We've had people call, say, I didn't get a bag, or you didn't pick up my bag, or it's really become a part of our community. I'm just so proud of them for that. Secondly, this next Saturday, our church is doing this thing called Operation Inasmuch. It's a community outreach. This is our 10th year. We're doing a roof over here on 2nd Street. We've got a porch to repair. We've got free car wash. We've got lunch, and just a lot of other community things. We're going to do some things down at the Oliver House with some of our girls, and so yeah, it's a great time for us. Last thing, National Day of Prayer. May 3rd, we have a noontime event here at Ashley Wall Square, and in the evening at 7:15 we have one out at the community center. And that one I'm really hoping we get some of our youth involved in what the National Day of Prayer is. It's a terrific thing for us to all to be involved in. So, okay?
Thank
Cool.
you. Thank you for all the things that y'all are doing. We appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. Let us pray. Lord, we just thank you for this day. We thank you, Lord, for this community. We just ask you, Lord, for your blessings upon all of us, that we keep you in our forefront, that we, all of our things that we do are directed to you and through you. We just ask you, Lord, that as our meeting progresses tonight, that the things that our commissioners have to make decisions on, Lord, are blessed by you. We just also pray again, Lord, that this is just such a tremendous growing community, and through all of our churches, which are part of all of this, we just ask for your blessings on all of us. For all these things we ask in your blessed name. Amen.
Do we have any adjustments of the agenda?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion, or make an adjustment to the agenda, to remove item number 5, presentation by line bike.
Okay, we have a motion to remove number 5.
And then with that, I'll motion to approve.
Okay, approve. We have a motion to approve the agenda with the removal of item number 5. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. There's no one signed up for public comment tonight. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 4 is the recognition of Miss Catherine Slade, teacher from Wendell Middle School. Ms. Slade graduated summa cum laude from Ball State University with a Bachelor of Science in Music Education and continued her studies at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro with a master's degree in music. In 2017-18 school year will be her 13th year of teaching. Ms. Slade's band students regularly earn individual honors and distinctions. Each year, at least one of her students earns all-county, and most years, at least one earns all-district honors. This year's concert band earned the prestigious superior rating at the Music Performance Adjudication as part of a state band festival. The band regularly performs at local elementary schools, Stars in the East, and at various events in the town of Wendell, including Wendell Wonderland, which we certainly appreciate y'all being there and look forward to it every year. Ms. Slade's expertise was vital in our school's highly successful first musical, Annie Jr., that was held over the weekend. It is amazing how a child that struggles to put their instrument together when they enter her program becomes a truly talented musician. Ms. Slade has been at Wendell Middle School for 4 years, and she makes a true difference in our community. Ms. Slade is truly irreplaceable. We just wanted to bring you here tonight and thank you for all the things that you're doing for our kids at Wendell Middle School. I attended Annie this weekend, and it was outstanding. I really enjoyed it. And you could tell the kids were involved and excited, and there was a lot of excitement and buzz in the air there, and it's because there's a great staff there and a lot of great teachers, and you're part of that, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Yes, at Wendell Middle we have amazing teachers. It is a great crew to work with. My students are awesome, and you see their faces after the musical performance. It's the same at band performances, and anytime they get a great grade, they come to me and they say, "Oh, I got an A on this test. Let me tell you about it." Yeah. So we have a lot to celebrate at Wendell Middle School. And if anybody would like to continue to support the band, we have a band concert on May 8th at 7:15. It's free. So come out, and that's the 7th grade band, 8th grade band, and jazz band. And our 6th grade band is performing on May 15th at 7 p.m. And that's a fun crew because in 6th grade is when they start learning to play an instrument. So it's amazing to see. They don't know anything when they come in. They got a good foundation of music in elementary school, but they don't know how to put together an instrument. They don't know how to blow an instrument. And by the end, it's just beautiful music. So I'm very, very proud of them. And one last plug, for any of you that like to do community service, EOGs are coming up. After Memorial Day, we can always use some proctors to help with those tests. And if you're available those days after Memorial Weekend, contact the school and come work with the students and the staff, because we love to bring you in and see the good things we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again for everything.
You're welcome.
Item number 6 is a discussion of proposed sidewalk project. Mr. Bergmark.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. This is a follow-up to one of our previous agenda items dealing with the sidewalk fee in lieu. Tonight, you're being asked to receive some information regarding potential locations to potentially expend fee in lieu of transportation improvement funds and provide direction to staff That could either be indicating some areas that are more preferred than others, and with the understanding that we haven't received quotes yet from contractors. So at the April 9th meeting, we approved a fee in lieu of bike lane installation along a section of Wendell Boulevard in the amount of just over $3,000. And the board expressed a desire to try to spend these funds towards sidewalk installation and directed us to look at some potential locations. There was a specific mention of a section along Wendell Boulevard near the IGA as an area where we'd ideally like to fill in some sidewalk. Based upon that fee collected, we could expect to hire someone to install between 125 to 175 linear feet of sidewalk. That exact amount would vary based on what encroachments or easements we may need, as well as whether or not there's any new curb ramps needed if it's approaching intersections or things of that nature. This assumes that curb and gutter are already in place. So we included some potential sidewalk projects. As you'll see as I go over this, just $3,000 just doesn't really go very far at all. So although I don't specifically cover this in the report, one option is also to just hold on to this until we acquire more money to be able to take a bigger chunk out of something. But the areas identified, the first one was 4th Street between the Park and Ride lot and the cell tower site. One reason we looked at this is it's on a town-maintained road, so we don't have to worry about a DOT encroachment. And it's only approximately 115 feet or so. We would need an ADA curb ramp, so this section is one that we could potentially do, although we haven't had a quote yet, potentially do with the amount that we have that we collected. Another area we looked at was Wall Street between Short Street and the existing sidewalk just west of Todd Street. We have received some concerns from citizens over Wall Street, and this is an area that's identified in our sidewalk plan, our pedestrian plan. This entire stretch, though, is getting closer to 300 feet, so you would not be able to fill this whole gap. You'd just be doing a piece of it. And this is also a town-maintained road, so it wouldn't need a DOT encroachment. Speaking of Wendell Boulevard, we did look at that stretch that's kind of going towards the IGA on the north side of Wendell Boulevard. There's a lot that's adjacent to the new EMS facility on the north side, and the whole stretch this says 1,300 linear feet. I think it might actually be closer to 1,600. But that whole stretch doesn't contain enough right-of-way to do, so there's a lot more complications along the stretch. It's part of the reason why our pedestrian plan doesn't show this in the near term, not because it isn't important, but because it's just going to cost a lot of money. But with that one tract I mentioned directly next to the EMS facility owned by Fred Anderson, you could look at putting some along that within an access easement. We could obtain one from the property owner outside of the current right-of-way. That would be about 150 feet, so you may be able to do that. I did want to note, though, that this is an undeveloped tract in an area that's probably more prone to development. So this is an area that we might just get the sidewalk anyways when it develops. And then we also looked at the south side of Wendell Boulevard between Academy Street going towards Parish Realty office building on that same side. There's a gap there that's approximately 300 feet in length. So again, it would only cover a portion of that as well, and you would need a DOT encroachment because this would be within existing right-of-way. We could look at countless others, but these are just some of them we tried to look at based on the pedestrian plan, based on shorter lengths, but the $3,000 just doesn't go very far. If we were going to pursue one of these options, what staff is recommending was option number one, just because we think it's the most feasible with the funds we have. But as I mentioned, we could also look at just holding, there was other things we thought was more important, but we just didn't have the funds for, we could hold on to this and let it grow. Happy to take any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Bergmark?
I do. As you know, it was my suggestion, and I think a lot of the board feels the same way, that we want to put sidewalks where they can best be utilized. And I'm just not sure the staff's recommendation of doing it on 4th Street is going to be the best place to spend those dollars. If the amount of money that we're talking won't do, an entire gap on Wendell Boulevard, specifically looking at the one between Academy Street and Parish Realty, then it would be my suggestion that we either build the part that we can build, or we hold on to it until we can do the entire thing. instead of putting sidewalks on Fourth Street beside the cell phone tower where I just don't think they're gonna be utilized that much. Wendell Boulevard, people, you know, drive a little fast, and it is tight through there, and I think it's a little safer to walk on the street, on Fourth Street, than it is on Wendell Boulevard. And I think there's a much higher need for it on Wendell Boulevard than there is on Fourth Street. So it would be my recommendation that we either hold on to this money until we can get enough to do the whole stretch there, or at least a significant portion of that, or we just go ahead and do the part that we can do, on Wendell Boulevard.
Anyone else?
I'm of the same mindset. I'd like to see us just kind of hang on to it for the time being, until we can use these funds for either leverage for something bigger or, make more of an impact on Wendell Boulevard.
Is that a motion?
I'll be happy to make it as a motion. I'll make a motion that we, for the time being, hold on to these funds, the sidewalk funds, until we can further accomplish our goals on Wendell Boulevard, I guess, just till later
Okay.
date.
But you want that money to be, not get lost in the shuffle?
Correct, yes.
Okay. All right, is there any discussion on the motion?
I would also request that staff, if we could get a total cost to install sidewalk between Academy Street and where the sidewalks pick back up. Either the EMS station on the north side and at I believe it starts back at O'Reilly on the south side. Perhaps the car wash?
Yeah, we do have a preliminary estimate along the north side that we just got from AMT. You're probably going to get some sticker shock from that. We don't have an estimate yet on the opposite side of the road, so I'll look at getting something for that and giving that to the board.
What's the ballpark on sticker shock these days?
Just the construction cost, not including right-of-way or design, is like $200,000.
How much design is there for a sidewalk?
Well, you need to, that includes, you know, surveying and looking where all your utility conflicts may be, that you have to work around, looking at where you're, would have to be putting in, you know, new ramps, where you're gonna have to be replacing driveways, anything along that nature. And then the right-of-way acquisition, because like I said, it's too narrow along stretches of that. So you'd have to look at purchasing more.
We did look at that earlier, Commissioner Boyette, and several years ago, and one of the issues is drainage, and there's some drop inlets that are along there that do make it, you know, kind of tricky, but again, it is an expensive venture.
Okay, so we have a motion to put this money aside and wait until we can maybe acquire some more and revisit doing a bigger section somewhere. Is that correct statement of the
Yes,
motion? Okay, all in favor? Right. Could we add this $3,062, please? Is that how much it was? That we have? Can we add that to the snapshot and let that be a little reminder in a section on there that we have that money, and as we get a little more, we can maybe have a little run in total? Thank you. Right, item number 7 is the presentation of the Standards and Specification Manual. I believe we're going to hear from Mr. Reedy.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the board. Tonight, you're asked to receive information regarding the final draft of the Standards and Specifications Manual. The purpose of the Standards and Specifications Manual is to serve as an approved document that is utilized as minimum standards for all development, which include non-residential and residential, as well as utility construction projects within our jurisdiction. Currently, the town does not have an updated and approved version of the Standards and Specs Manual, which has made reviewing development plans cumbersome. Staff has been working with AMT Engineering over the past 18 months to create a draft Standards and Specs Manual for you guys to consider. Tonight, we have asked Sam McDonald of AMT Engineering to make a presentation, just a general presentation over what a standards and specifications manual does to protect a town and some of the methodology of how they came up with the standards that they're recommending. So with that, I'll turn it over to him.
Great, thank you.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Sam McDonald. I'm a project manager with AMT in our Raleigh office, and here to talk to you tonight about why have standards and specifications. We are affected daily by standards and specifications in virtually every area of our lives. The steak that your neighbor was grilling as you rushed out the door to come to this meeting tonight, USDA approved. There's standards and specifications there. The water that you're drinking tonight, there are standards that limit the certain number of parts per million of chemicals or microbes that are allowed to be in that water that makes it safe for drinking. If you've ever been to foreign countries, there are very often times when you are warned, do not drink the water because of the adverse effects that will affect you. Cars that you drive are manufactured with genuine GM or Ford parts. Those are standard specifications, and ASC certified mechanics are the ones that work on your cars. Hopefully we don't have people who don't know what they're doing putting parts that are substandard in your cars, or you're going to suffer the consequences behind them. The roads that we drive on are governed by standard speed limits. They are not left to someone's discretion as to how fast you should be driving on these roads. If it was left to someone's individual discretions, the results could be chaotic or dangerous. For instance, if your son or daughter is driving in your car on the first day that they receive their learner's permit, an acceptable speed might be 20 or 25 miles an hour. But if a NASCAR driver is driving on that same stretch, they could safely, as long as there aren't other people on the road, they could safely navigate it at speeds of up to 100 miles an hour. So there's a much difference in one's ability, but in order to make sure that we don't have people doing both ends of the spectrum, there are standards set to limit. Subjectivity is something that we want to avoid because of the vast range of results. So we institute standards and specifications for development within the town. There are several benefits that we gained from this. First, if you have standards and specifications, they provide for safety. There are a lot of organizations that have spent a lot of time and considerable effort establishing performance standards and design guidelines. We're familiar with ADA guidelines. They set regulations that establish maximum slopes, minimum widths, and other design standards to provide safe and effective spaces for people with physical limitations. ASTM is an organization that has created performance standards for materials, products, systems, and services. Materials used in construction have to conform to these standards in order to provide the, or in order to perform as intended. For example, concrete pipe is manufactured and tested to verify its strength so that it won't fail when you load it under a fill embankment. The failure would cause flooding and problems. MUTCD is an organization that provides a manual for standard signage and pavement markings so that we can very quickly identify what we are supposed to do when we come across a sign or pavement markings, and there's no confusion if we're in the middle of driving on a busy road. The IBC, or International Building Code, establishes standards that have to be followed so that buildings such as the one that we are in will be safe to enter. They won't have materials in them that would cause people to get sick. Another advantage of having standards and specifications is that it allows for enforceability. If there's no posted speed limit on a road, Chief Carter can't very well enforce a speed limit. He can't come up to you and say, oh, you were driving too fast, because there's no standard to apply in that situation. If Wendell wants residential streets to be 27 feet from back of curb to back and curb to provide for safe travel and sufficient space for people to park on at least one side of the road. Having a standard that states this allows the staff to require that the developer who's submitting plans complies with that standard. If you want sidewalk to be provided on residential streets, having a standard cross-section clearly showing that they're required allows the staff to require or insist the developer install them. Stating in the standards that utility lines are supposed to be underground will prevent them from being hung on poles throughout a development. While some developers that you run into are going to be very willing to install certain items because they'll establish a certain feel for the neighborhood, other developers aren't as willing to do that and may decide that they want to do the absolute bare minimum that they can get away with, and having the standards in place allows staff to require that the bare minimum that Wendell wants gets constructed. When you take the long view, having standards and specifications has a cost savings consideration for the municipality as well. When a development isn't constructed, eventually the town is going to take over ownership and maintenance of certain aspects of the public infrastructure. If you require that the streets in these developments be built with a certain depth of pavement, you can expect the streets to last for a certain period of time. That period of time will expire before the town has to come through and either repave, repair, or replace the entire street. If you state that concrete pipe is to be used for drainage, you can reasonably expect that the pipes are going to be functioning properly 100 years from now, and they won't be failing between now and then. So the standards and specifications can help to establish infrastructure that will last and require less expenditure for maintenance, saving the town money in the long run. So in review, adopting standards and specifications by the town will help promote public safety, help assist the town staff in enforceability, and also help reduce the repair costs for future maintenance required by the town. We've worked with the town staff recently to come up with some additional standards or revising some of the standards. In doing so, we've relied heavily on NCDOT because they do a lot with transportation and things associated with transportation throughout the state. Very good baseline to start with, and there's no sense trying to reinvent a wheel if they've already gone through and perfected it. We've also looked at some of the surrounding communities and some things that they do, trying to make sure that while we look out for the best interest of Wendell, we also don't want to require a Maserati if everybody in the area is only requiring maybe a Ford Fusion. Now, we at the same time don't want to let people get away with just providing you a Yugo. So there's some comparison between other municipalities and what we're looking at. So that's the brief presentation that I wanted to provide. If you have questions about the standards and specifications either tonight or in the future, I'd be happy to do my best to answer those questions.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, well, mine are probably directed more towards planning staff though. So Patrick, there was a winding beginning to this talking about standards that we had that were less than maybe, and then now we have this. I'm assuming we either don't have standards currently or we don't have them clearly defined.
A combination of them. We have some standards within the UDO, like that sidewalks are required, but we don't have a design for those sidewalks to say how deep they should be, those type of things. So same with multi-use paths, same with some cross sections. So we have some of the details in here in the UDO, but it doesn't give a clear narrative of how those should be installed. Same with like open space. It doesn't talk about, it just says how much space. It doesn't talk about, how to provide that space in any type of tangible way. So I think back in maybe 2012, 2013, something like that, a draft manual was brought before the board at that time, but it was never adopted. We've kind of used that as a guideline of sorts, and that was the baseline for this, and AMT, over the course of working with us, took that and started with that as the baseline, and then made suggestions, and we went back and forth on different things. They had some things that were higher than anyone else around the area, and while that would be in the best interest of the town as far as how long a road would last, we said, well, that would put us at a competitive disadvantage, so we asked them to scale that back so we were in line with other municipalities. And then there were things like a dig once policy that we worked with TAMA on when they're building a new road to put in extra conduit for future fiber lines so that it doesn't have to get tore up again. So things like that we've tried to be a little bit looking ahead of, so that once we build a road, we don't want Raleigh or somebody else to be coming in 6 months later and tearing it out like we've had to do in the past.
Anyone else?
I'll just make one more. Ms. Piner, what was the cost of this, developing this plan?
This one, I'd have to go back and look, because we've been working on it a couple of years now.
I say 2,500 was.
That sounds about right.
$2,500.
I began looking through it, and there's there's definitely a lot of detail in it, and some of it is obviously outside the scope of what a lobbyist does on a daily basis. So there's some technical detail in there that I don't quite understand, but I'm certainly going to work between now and May 14th to try to get those questions answered and get into a little more detail, but I'd encourage the rest of the board. I don't think it's productive to bring up my questions at this point, but I think if you read through it, you'll find some questions in there. How does this fit in this part of Wendell? So I'd ask everybody to review it before the 14th.
And Mayor, we'll be glad to take those questions and try to get the answers, and work on between now and next May meeting.
Well, as you're reading through it, if you come up with any questions, email them to the manager, so she can have an opportunity to look at them ahead of time. Are there any other comments, questions? All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 8 is a discussion of applications received for citizen advisory boards. I'm here from Ms. Scoggins.
Okay, good evening, Madam Mayor and Board. The recruitment for the Citizen Advisory Boards launched on Tuesday, February 27th, and wrapped up on Tuesday, April 3rd, and it netted 20 applicants this year. The applicants were reviewed for residency requirements. Those meeting the requirements are included in your packet for consideration. Applicants that were outside the residency requirements were sent a letter stating that they could contact Wake County and apply for a board with them. Letters were mailed to all of our applicants on April 5th with an invite to hear the business of the town this evening. And they are invited to stay afterwards to meet all of you so we can put names and a face together. And for those of you who are here for the Citizen Board applicants to meet with the board, if you would please stand. Great. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, and action by the board will be requested at your May 14th town board meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Scoggins, and thank you all for being here tonight. We appreciate it, and your willingness to serve. Appreciate that. Item number 9 is a discussion of the review of the Wake County interlocal agreement to continue administering Town of Wendell's stormwater and erosion and sedimentation ordinances. Ms. Piner.
Madam Mayor, members of the board, the original interlocal agreement, or the ILA, between Wake County and the Town of Wendell for erosion and sedimentation control, stormwater surfaces, was approved in 2010, and it expires in June of this year. The proposed agreement for the continuation of services has an amended term expiring in 2028. Also enclosed is a summary of the proposed changes. The updated ILA will be forwarded later in the week. This is what I actually sent, and we've sent that, it was later in coming. We've been working with Wake County to get those, numbers and those dates, updated and changed. This is not about the ordinance itself. I know there have been some questions by, some of our elected officials regarding our stormwater ordinance. This is a matter of actually, carrying it out and then, doing those reviews for us. It's something that the town of Wendell does not have staff to do. The sedimentation and erosion control, the Wake County has been doing that prior to my coming with the town of Wendell. This is probably, though, in 2010 was the first formal agreement that I was aware of. And this is, again, to renew that for to 2028.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Finer?
Ms. Finer, there's a line in, I'm trying to find it now. There's one that says civil penalties will be retained by Wake County, and there's another one that says that, and this may be version 1 versus version 2, that they'll be forwarded to the North Carolina. I'm trying to find it. Essentially where the dollars go.
Okay, that is Article 1, 1.14. Yes, sir. Originally it said Wake County. That was in the version that was adopted 2010. Number 4 was supposedly based upon what state law requires.
Okay. Does that reflect what was the? So that's purely a statutory because.
Yes,
but
yes.
It has nothing to do with the fact that previously we tried to pay into it and we couldn't pay into it?
No, that would be separate. Yes, this was just a matter of penalties and where those funds would go, and it was clarified that it would not be going to Wake County, it'd be going to state. Most likely the school system, probably. I don't know, I haven't actually read the statute. As far as the other and being able to pay into the bank for nitrogen bank, the town has had issues with that in the past in this. However, the town is being, and again, it's separate from this, with the actual stormwater rules and regulations, the town is being tipped into phase 2 and will be required to meet nitrogen rules and regulations. That's probably going to be in about 12 months. That they anticipate that actually coming through. At that time, then we would be able to deposit into that bank directly.
Can you explain the phase 2?
Phase 2, several different factors on that, but one of them is that it addresses and reduces the amount of nitrogen that can be released from the development. There's other options that you can do when it reaches a certain level. Those can include dry mitigation ponds, wet mitigation ponds, other types of treatment, and we even allow, the town even allows in some ways for additional items such as cisterns and low impact development. Well, when a development is not able to meet those nitrogen load levels, then depending upon the individual town's ordinances, they may wish to pay into a nitrogen bank, a state bank, where those monies are used to mitigate wetlands in other areas. And until now, we had the town's ordinance, when it was redone, had asked that that be done, but when we found out that the state would not permit it because we weren't tipped in, then we had to go back and change our ordinance. It looks like, again now, because of our growth, and there's positive things that come with our growth, and then some things that do hinder us, that we will, because of our density and our population, be tipped in to having to meet those requirements, nitrogen requirements by the state.
So, and I heard it said twice in the presentation that this is not directly related to the ordinance, that these are two separate things. If I believe that the chief is enforcing a law that's on the books, but I disagree with the law, I have the right, and I think some would argue the duty as an elected official to do what I can to change that law. In North Carolina, the power of the purse is the body piece given to us. This is purely a power of the purse issue. So until we're enforcing good policy, and I have a lot of issues moving forward with another 10-year agreement on them enforcing a policy that has to be, quote, essentially the same as theirs. I know there could be some changes. The other piece to that is tip in now, tip in 12 months from now, tip in 24 months from now. I don't care if we do it all over again. Just because we've abused ourselves for the last 10 years in trying to comply with things that we shouldn't have been complying with, I don't think we need to try to continue to comply with them for 2 more years so that we can have used the amount of time, because it's phased intentionally, but in the first part of the phase, you're supposed to have more leeway, more flexibility, more ability to move and shake and get things done. Despite ourselves, we're seeing growth. That said, we're missing lots of very specific growth, specific restaurants, specific types of growth people want to see. I've yet to be able to find anybody that can show me that this isn't the cause of it. There's fundamental scientific issues with our stormwater ordinance. There's obviously statutorily we couldn't give to that fund. That's because someone thought it was a bad idea for us to be given to that fund.
And we did change, and the board did make a change to that ordinance.
Right. I'm letting you know, and I think everyone's well aware of this at this point. If you give me a hammer, I'm going to use it. This is a hammer, so I intend to use it. I'd like to see us, I proposed a couple things. Let's do what Knightdale does. Let's do what Zebulon does. Hey, let's just do what Wake County does. I think that in all honesty, that likely makes a whole lot of sense. But then in our conversations, Wake County's apparently looking to change theirs.
They're changing theirs, yes, sir.
So I certainly wouldn't be opposed to doing what Wake County currently does, and let them do what they want to continue to do, but some sort of set of normal standards that we have competition across the board, because I've yet to find anybody that says, oh yes, I love y'all's stormwater policy. Like, yeah, that's just like what we did over in Clayton, or it's just like what we did in Knightdale. But for the life of me, we can't seem to figure out how to get it to move, what to fix. Everyone seems to can show me the problem, but internally we haven't been able to fix it. I get these two aren't related on their face, but I'd argue that they're very related as far as the amount of conversation and the, let's say how red in the face they both make me. This is tied to the other one by that, and until we decide to get competitive, it doesn't matter how many minimum standards we set up or how many pieces of sidewalk we go to look at. It's going to be development driven, and we need to make sure that we are doing the things to entice development. And I don't know that shipping off our responsibilities to Wake County to enforce a plan that we, at least I feel, is overburdensome is the right thing to do. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Well, on that vein, why don't we take a look at it? Let's take a look at it.
Absolutely.
Let's take a look at what Knightdale and Zebulon do, and
And we have a work, we're 75% of the way there. We have a working document that I think maybe I just got last meeting, the chart that includes nitrogen. So I think we can have conversation and likely move before this date, but I think the chicken needs to come before the egg in this case.
okay. I don't have a problem with that at all.
We'll just need direction from the board as far as looking at this. Do we want to put that as an agenda item to discuss in more detail at the May 14th meeting of where the board, what interest they have in moving forward with in regard to the stormwater ordinance?
Well, let's talk about it right now.
Okay.
What the interest is. Let's not wait 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. So what do y'all think?
I'll happily personally ask that it be added to the May 14th agenda.
But for more than discussion, I assume, or to receive some information and let's go ahead and tell them what we want to know. Let's don't just wait. Let's tell them what we want to know.
Well, we've got a good working chart, so that's probably a good place for everyone to draw questions from. My specific is 1 to the nitrogen, which I've been looking at these standards, so I haven't looked at nitrogen this week, but
Okay.
The nitrogen and then just the competitiveness, do we need to look at Wake County? Or, like I said, I think we already have that flow chart, but does staff have recommendations on how to make us, how do we bring our regulations back in line with everyone else?
Where are we higher? Where do we land with everyone else? Let's look at Nightdale, Zebulon, Wendell, Clayton, if you want to, Wake County, and look at where we are. Is that satisfactory,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Turner? And get it on the agenda for our first meeting in May.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. All right, anything else on that? All right, item number 10 is an update on board committee by board members. Since we last met, I attended Campo on behalf of the town of Wendell. We held a public hearing on fiscal year 2018-2027 Transportation Improvement Program Amendment number 3. We had a Vision Zero presentation. We discussed the fiscal year 2018-2027 Transportation Improvement Program Amendment number 4, and Spot 5, received an update on Spot 5 and the target model mix. Campo, they plan way out in the future. It's always interesting to sit here. The other person we're going to hear from, I believe, Commissioner Myrick, East Wake Senior Center Auxiliary meeting.
Yes, they met last week, and the East Wake Senior Center would like to thank the town for their successful fundraiser had a few weeks ago, the fish fry, and also to town staff. For those of you who don't know, we own that building, they just occupy it. So Brian and Teresa, they had some plumbing issues out there, as you guys know, and y'all were very prompt to repair those, so thank you guys.
And Commissioners' reports, we'll start with Commissioner Carroll.
No comments tonight, Mayor.
Commissioner Lutz.
I attended the opening day at the park on Saturday. It was thanks to the Parks and Rec staff for all their hard work, and thanks to Mother Nature for cooperating. It was a wonderful day. That's all.
Okay. Commissioner Myrick.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Commissioner Boyette.
No comments tonight.
Commissioner Joyner. I can't believe Commissioner Boyette doesn't have.
Yeah, no.
Well, I was going to congratulate a former mayor for something, but I will leave it to someone more suited.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I enjoyed our budget conversation earlier. I think we're going to be digging in a lot deeper, but it looks like we're going to have another good year. I did want to highlight everything that we have going on downtown right now. It's been nice to see lots of traffic down there, especially on the weekends. There are some growing pains in everything, so bear with us. But as we grow, you're going to see more and better. I do want to say that my frustration with what seems like little things as far as the regulation is may seem like overkill sometimes. Let me assure you it's not. When I hear someone say they don't have a Chick-fil-A here, and why don't we have a Chick-fil-A here? Well, when we can't go any deeper on stormwater, then, well, we know we have standards and they're a little more, when every person that I've talked to that's been developing property here said, yeah, the cost is substantially more. Well, I can't say that that's why they're not here, but I certainly can't say that's why they're not here. And I completely messed that up, but you understand what I was trying to say. So the last piece is a sense of community for me. I had the pleasure Friday of stopping by to speak to a constituent about a couple of things. And as I looked out the front window of Mr. Jones's office, I noticed there was a vehicle backing out, and upon second glance, I realized it was my vehicle. and I wasn't in it, which posed a problem. So after I ran out the door, charged towards the vehicle, saying some things that will most likely ensure that individual will never vote for me, the gentleman exited my vehicle to the right. There were some things inside my vehicle I wanted to secure before I took off after him. So I went to my vehicle. Upon looking up, I see none other than our near octogenarian former mayor, not running, not pursuing. I think the best description I've heard thus far is knees to chest strolling. Because I looked up and Lucius Jones was maybe 15 yards off of a 17-year-old male who was literally running from the law at that point, or 17-ish male. It was the best sight of my day. It was, I told someone earlier, I would go through the entire experience again just to watch that. But very cool to have a sense of community where when your car gets stolen, people just take off chasing it. I think the police department caught them a grand total of 2 blocks away from where Lucius stopped. So it was certainly an exciting experience, and I got to experience all that Wendell PD has to offer, from getting my car stolen to seeing the person get arrested. And obviously, thank you to, I'm trying to figure out how to word the award, but that's forthcoming.
Thank you. Well, my comments are going to be really boring. Kate, I missed all the excitement. We had Jake May opening day at the Wendell Community Park this past weekend, and I understand it was very successful. I was out there for a period of time in the morning. I had several things I had to do that day. But the weather was beautiful. There were tons of children and families out there, and it was a wonderful day, and that's the kinds of days we like to have in Wendell. So I appreciate the Parks and Rec and Kelly Conley and everybody for their hard work out there making that happen. I also, this past weekend, attended, I alluded to it earlier, the musical Annie Jr. at Wendell Middle School. They invited me, and I said, yes, I'd be happy to be there, and I had reserved seats for myself and my husband right up in the front, and it was very nice, and all the young ladies and young men were real excited to have someone there, and it was just the cutest thing I've ever seen. It really was cute, and I understand they're going to do 2 musicals a year, and you really ought to go. It was really, really just adorable. It's really cute. They were very excited. You know, sometimes around here we fall into traps where it takes a whole lot of great things to overcome one negative thing. And so that's why I put a lot of focus on our schools, because there are great things happening in our schools, and we have great kids in our schools here. And I just want you to know that Wendell Middle School is really making great strides. And that play, and of course we recognize the music teacher from there tonight, the play was outstanding. It was really cute. They all had on costumes, and the young man that played Daddy Warbucks even had a bald wig, the bald skin thing on. It was just really, really cute. They're very talented too. I was very impressed. Just a quick reminder, and you've probably heard every single one of these maybe, the Wendell Council of Churches is hosting 2 National Days of Prayer on May 3rd, and one's going to be at noon at the Ashley J. Walltown Square, and the other one's going to be at 7:15 at the Wendell Community Center. And they would love for you to attend one or both of those. Saturday, May 5th is Public Safety Day in downtown Wendell from 10 to 2. You can come out and meet the police officers and EMS and fire and all the folks who keep us safe around here. And they have all kinds of activities and things for you and your children to do, so I urge you to come out and do that. And the last thing, Saturday, May 12th, there's a lot getting ready to happen around here, is Spring Into the Arts Walk in downtown Wendell. That will be, again, May 12th from 9 until 5, all over downtown. And the list of things that are going to happen is too long for me to read here, but it's going to be a day-long experience of visual and fine arts and performing arts, and it's going to just be all over the downtown. So I urge you to come down with your kids. Your school-age kids that go to school here have probably participated in some fashion in the children's aspect of it, and there'll be a lot of things for them to do that day. And then a week or so later, on May 18th, there's going to be a reception at Wine and Beer 101, and there's reception for the artists, and we're going to auction off the paintings. And it's all a fundraiser for our wonderful Appearance Commission that has brought us all of our murals and things around town. So that's all I have for tonight, and I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we're adjourned.